Dr. P podcast. Last week, I talked about the move to the United States, and where we left off was after my family and I had moved to Houston, Texas, and we had opened the Salt and Light Church. As I mentioned last week, for the next 13 years after the church began, I dedicated my life to serving the people that God brought our way. Those 13 years were some of the most amazing years of my life. I rubbed shoulders with some great men and women. Serving God through this ministry was very fulfilling. The church was by no means perfect, and we had our challenges. Yet it was through those challenges that I grew both as a woman and a minister. I spent time caring and loving the people in my circle. I poured my life into this venture. I did not hold anything back, whether it was effort, time, finances, or love. During some of the latter years, I began to experience pain, and it happened each time someone I loved walked away from the ministry. Every person that left took a piece of my heart with them. I know some would say that I took it way too personally. But how could it not be personal? The relationships I forged were personal in nature. I cared for people in a very personal way. I loved them in a very personal way. I think it's all too easy to remain objective when you have invested nothing. But when you invest that time and the effort and the love, it becomes very subjective. And how do I disconnect my heart? I believe it is tough. It is very tough to be successful in ministry when everything is clinical. And I wish I could have approached it from a clinical perspective. But that's just not me. There were aspects to the journey that did not make sense to me. For example, how was it that even though I was watering this plant and tending to it, it was still withering? And I could see that unfold before my eyes. And the more it happened, the more I poured into it. You see, I read more books, and I tried to implement the steps outlined in the books. I took to praying more. I fasted more. I loved harder. And yet, none of that seemed to avail much. It did not make sense. I know I heard his voice, and I was in the right place. I know this is where I was meant to be. So what was the issue? Have you ever experienced such a conundrum? Maybe it is a business venture, or a ministry, or maybe even your own marriage. You know you heard right, and you know you're in the right place because there was confirmation after confirmation. But no matter what you do, it just doesn't seem to be availing anything. And I don't mean to sound callous, but I never thought that something I loved and cared for so much would wither and die. But that is exactly what seemed to happen. You notice I use the phrase seemed to happen because some of my sons and daughters have gone on to do great things. And someone said that that is a sign that our seed has remained. I agree with that sentiment. Yet, that did not insulate me from the deep pain of loss that I experienced. As more and more of the people I loved left, my heart was broken further. Just when I would think I was doing okay, someone else would leave, and it just seemed like my heart broke in the very same place over and over again. It was like a wound that never healed. I did not know at the time that I needed to process each loss as it happened. So everything just piled up. Someone once said that I made the choice to close myself off, and there was no reason why the relationship could not continue. While I agree in principle, I have to also admit that most relationships forged through ministry tend to take on a different persona when that which united people is taken away. It is just the way life is. I did not know how to let go without getting hurt, and I could not help feeling what I was feeling. You see, my mind told me that it was logical for people to move on, and in my mind, I got it. But my heart was another matter altogether. I was feeling what I was feeling, and as much as I tried to ignore those feelings or push them away, the more they increased. I have a close friend who once told me that it is important to love people dearly but hold them loosely. I admit I have no idea how to do that. You see, I love very deeply, and I am an intensely loyal person, and I don't apologize for that. So I guess that even though I never articulated it, I expected the same type of love and loyalty. I probably should not have, but I did. I did not share what I was experiencing or feeling with anyone. Instead, I just soldiered on and continued to suffer in silence. See, I had witnessed how the generation of women ahead of me modeled suffering in silence, and I was following in those same footsteps. I had no idea the toll it was taking on me as a woman. If you have ever suffered a broken heart, you might relate. I nursed this pain internally for many years. And here's the kicker: I did not need to become another mother. But that is a lesson I learned, and I will share more next week. So join me next week as I continue peeling the layers and sharing more from my story.